Welcome to a new edition of the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino. On this episode, we talk with Vietnam veteran and author Terence McCarthy. He wanted to make sure the entire truth about the North Vietnamese communists and Cambodia's involvement was revealed, and it was in his book released in late May 2020. It's the book, The Real Story, Cambodia and South Vietnam, 1953 to 70. It's all about his time in the Army while serving in Vietnam, assigned to develop intelligence about the Vietnamese communist movement in Cambodia. It's quite a story. Enjoy.
Terence, great to meet you. Where are you coming out of?
Well, we live in Carmel, Indiana.
Okay. Well, we're kind of in the same neighborhood, so to speak. I'm in Kansas City, Missouri.
Okay.
Relatively speaking, right? I mean, at least it's not you're coming out of Europe and I'm in Kansas City, so we're kind of in the same area. So, well, it's great to meet you. I'm looking forward to getting into your life as an author and all of the rich material that's made up your life. So to begin with, I want to know, 4 years ago, we were trying to figure out this pandemic, how we're going to get out of it. How did you ultimately survive that pandemic period? And how did it change the way that you do things now?
Not very much.
So let's get to what you do exactly right now in 2024. I'm going to put you in front of a bunch of third graders. It's career day. And one of the kids is curious and says, "Hey, what do you do for a living?" How do you answer that child?
I write books for a living.
How did you get to this point where you're writing books? What was your life like before you started writing books?
Well, obviously, I was a military intelligence officer and spent 20 years in the Army and retired. And had a real great tour of duty as far as, and of course, the principal one was Vietnam. And that was a shining light in my whole life. And I've written this book, The Real Story, and I've been compelled to do this because there needs to be, primarily for Vietnam veterans, someone to tell them what happened over there was something that should have been prevented and addressed at a total different way. So, and I feel that I really have taken this to task so that we can overcome some of the huge issues of that people had of what happened over there.
Well, they say for those that don't understand history well enough, you tend to repeat it. It feels almost as though your mantra is there's ways to avoid things like this from happening ever again.
Absolutely.
So, I'm 51. I was born in 72. My memory of Vietnam is really from the history books and, maybe Hollywood and the interpretation of soldiers coming back after the movement of people not wanting the war and how badly soldiers were treated. That kind of thing still astonishes me to this day. Even if people wanted the war to end, to treat soldiers the way they were getting treated when they came home seems to me to be
that was
one of the worst things that could have happened.
Yeah, I couldn't have been treated more severely. When I came back from Vietnam back in 1970, I was reassigned to the Pentagon, and the people were in a huge morale problem situation. And when I first came back and I went to my hometown of Cedar Rapids, Iowa, they had a reception for me, which was a reception to end all receptions. And the one of my classmates, her brother had been an aviator over in Vietnam and was shot down over in North Vietnam and was killed. So she was terribly in a doom gloom situation, and wanted me to not attend this party in my honor, and so she saw to it that I was kicked out of the party because her losing her brother was my fault. And then I went on to the Pentagon, and that was another shroud of hostility. The situation there was I would not, I could not wear a uniform to work. When I did get to work and walked from the parking lot into the Pentagon, there were protesters there that were hooting and telling the people coming in how horrible they were and how they had let them down completely. And so that was something that I had to contend with, and I did without too many problems. But it was an awful experience coming back.
So let's go back to the third grade. What was your dream? What did you want to be when you grew up? Was it always the military?
You know, that's I've given some thought to that, and I really wanted to become a PGA golf player, and because I was a scratch golfer in college when I went to Marquette University in Milwaukee, and I really felt that I had a real career as a professional golfer, but that did not prove to be so.
So take me back to where you were born and raised, and what were these foundational seeds that were planted into you to get into the military and then to work for the government and then to eventually become a writer and transcribe all of these memories and all of these stories down into words?
Well, I was born and raised in Cedar Rapids, Iowa, and I went to a Immaculate Conception school, and which was a marvelous institution. And when I after my 9th year as a freshman, the principal of the school called me in and said, I've got the professor here who teaches 9th grade, and he was very upset that you basically took over the classes and ran them. And and so my brother and my father both were graduates of Campion High School in Ferdinand, Wisconsin, which is a Jesuit prep school. And so my parents just said, well, if they don't like him, well, and what the professor said, he couldn't. I was just too talkative and knowledgeable about too many things, and he was unable to really get his job done as the professor for my freshman year. So they asked that I not return. So my dad drove me up to Prairie du Chien and entered me in Campion High School, and that was an incredible experience. And so I had my sophomore, junior, and senior years there, and the Jesuits are fantastic educators, and they really gave me a tremendous background in in Greek, Latin, and in math. And so when I went to Marquette, I did my chores of becoming a student in politics and philosophy, and so when and I joined the ROTC and I got my commission, and so when I showed up for active duty, and the PMS&T, the Professor of Military Science and Tactics, filled out for all of these ROTC graduates as second lieutenants. He filled out our number one choice in when he passed out the choices for what branch would suit me best. So he basically set up our choice as CE, which is Corps of Engineers. And so here I am, a political science philosophy major, going into becoming an engineer. So that was a huge challenge right away.
So let me ask you this: who's been kind of a hero for you in your life?
Oh, a hero in my life? Well, I don't know. I have to, Joe, you're going to have to let me think about that. I probably fell in love with the Jesuits. I mean, they were really number one in my life, and so what happened was I, of course, graduated, and I went to report for my duty as an engineer officer, and my first assignment was to Okinawa, where I was assigned to a engineer heavy construction battalion, and I certainly had no idea of wanting to be an engineer officer in this sort of profession, because it was just it wasn't there. So I moved on from Okinawa to Thailand, and we were assigned in a 55 miles east of Bangkok to uh, to a road construction project, and they made me the company commander. Of course, I had no process, no real informational background to be a engineer officer, but that was a huge challenge. And what really saved me was that north of our camp, I ran into a Redemptorist priest who used to be a photographer for the Chicago Daily News, and Father Ray Brennan, and he really turned my life around and gave me something to write home about, so that I had a really a wonderful experience there. And then I came back to the States. I was assigned to a intelligence at a school in Indianapolis, Indiana, where I spent 2 years living there, and then went on to going to to Vietnam. They sent me to the United States Army School of the Americas in Panama, where I was introduced to 16 weeks of learning to speak Vietnamese, which was something that I had to show my incredible versatility. And I went to, that was a fantastic situation. The students there were represented in from 17 different countries, all spoke Spanish, and I was nominated to provide 200 classes in Spanish, and so that leaves me being a Spanish speaker, and that was a very wonderful extension of my skills. And then I went on to Vietnam, and I arrived in the United States Military Assistance Command, Vietnam, Comas MacV, in August of 1968. And I was fortunate in picking out the job that I was going to be doing, and that was Chief Out-Country Section in the Intelligence Production Division. So that was an incredible experience in itself. And then I went on to Saigon in August of 1968. And I examined all the available intelligence data that they were working with concerning the Cambodian situation. And I developed some new intelligence estimates, which clearly indicated that the Cambodians were not only allowing arms shipments destined for the Vietnamese communists to be offloaded at the port of Sihanoukville in Cambodia, but were also involved in the transport of munitions across the country to the Vietnamese Cambodian communist border. So I was able to basically put together estimates that were that I was dispatched to Washington, and on the full gamut of the Cambodian base area situation, and so I picked up these dispatches in the intelligence area that were I achieved coming up with all the available intelligence on the Cambodian situation, and which clearly indicated that the Cambodians were not only allowing arms shipments destined for the Vietnamese communists to be offloaded at the port of Sihanoukville, but were also involved in the transport of munitions across the country to the Vietnamese Cambodian communist sanctuaries located along the Vietnamese-Cambodian border. And so I've sent these estimates dispatched to Washington. They were not met with favorable nods of agreement there. The Washington community still clung to the belief that the Ho Chi Minh Trail provided the bulk of military supplies to communist forces in the south part of South Vietnam. They claimed that hundreds and bits and pieces of information supported this view. So I became aware of this reasoning and devised a strategy to resolve the major dichotomy. I set out and to prove or disprove the Ho Chi Minh Trail theory, the use of Cambodian border regions as Vietnamese base areas was not in dispute. The Washington policymakers shrugged that situation off, saying that the Cambodian government's control was very weak. So the new strategy was the development of a new Cambodian collection plan. And this new approach discarded the traditional blank encyclopedic information gathering methodology. And
so, Terence,
yes,
you're really doing good kind of orchestrating this, and I'd like people to pick up the book. So my question to you is if anyone wants to pick up this book, reach out to you, learn more about you, where's the best place for them to go to do that?
Well, I would be very happy for people to, I've got several copies, about 39, 40 copies. So they want to get a signed autograph copy, they could just give me a check for $18 for each copy of the book and mail that to me at my residence here, which is 16 Greyhound Pass, Carmel, Indiana, 46032.
Okay. Excellent. I will make sure to put that in the show notes. I'm so glad you opened up about your life and the book and everything that you're doing to promote it and to make things better. So thank you for your time today and keep doing the great work. I appreciate it.
Okay, thank you. Real nice talking to you, and good luck to you.
Thanks for tuning in to another famous interview with Joe Dimino, where we cover the world of art, literature, business, spirituality, music, and more from around the globe. Our esteemed theme music was composed and produced by the great E.E. Pointer of Kansas City's River Cow Orchestra. If you want to hear more interviews, visit the Famous Interviews with Joe Dimino channel on YouTube. You can also find us on Spotify and Apple Podcasts. Thanks again for listening, and until next time.